tell. My back's against the wall and I'm up against the clock. Out of the blue and I'm ready to rock. Yeah, in my grandma's rocking chair. We're taking things literal. Everything literal. So I kick the bucket, gonna knock on wood. It's a piece of cake and it tastes good. I'm on a fence and now I'm out on a limb. Go jump in a lake, I hope you can swim. Yeah, I've got an axe to grind and a chip on my shoulder. I built a bridge for you to get over. We're gonna crash the party, it's off the hook. I'm on pins and needles, now let's hit the books. The teacher said hit the books. We're taking things literal. Everything literal. Now stop. I got up on the wrong side of the bed. Are you pulling my leg? You hit the nail on the head. Let the cat out of the bag and blast the music. I'm chilling with my homies, that's how we do this. Yeah, in the freezer. We're taking things literal. Everything literal. We're taking things literal. We're taking everything literal.
Okay, it's nice to start off the class with a decent song. Hey, can someone tell me what the girls were doing in this video? Cameron, I saw you bobbing your head. You liked the song. What were they doing?
They acted out the words they were saying.
Yeah, as you could tell, they were taking common figures of speech that we heard and transforming them into something literal. Like, when they said, I got a chip on my shoulder, what does it usually mean when you have a chip on your shoulder?
It usually means that someone's bothering you, or you got problems, something like that.
Yeah, and we know figurative language is
a language you don't take literally.
Words and phrases that mean something different than the words mean themselves. So, in the song, they say, we're taking everything
literal.
But that is what we're not going to do today. And today we're going to, and read it with me now,
Interpret figurative language using what we know from background knowledge.
And someone tell me what another way of saying background knowledge is. What have we discussed in the past few weeks? Context clues. What does it mean when I say context? Abby.
I actually don't remember. Can you call somebody else?
Abby, if you can't remember, go to our vocab list and press the tape recorder and press play.
Okay.
Context is the circumstances that form the setting for an event or statement or idea. Thank you, Abby. Context is the what, everybody? Circumstances. So, let's use this as an example. Today I woke up in the morning and I saw a huge rat's nest on my head. What kind of figurative language am I using?
Gabby.
That's a metaphor.
Mm-hmm. And based on the context, can we figure out what I mean when I say I found a huge rat's nest on my head?
Yeah.
Address the first part of the sentence. I said, I woke up in the morning. So we already know that it's morning time, right?
Yeah.
And what does our appearance usually look like when we first get up?
Disheveled.
Mm-hmm. So we can infer from the fact that we're just getting up, and usually people look disheveled when they get up, that when I go to the mirror, I'm not actually seeing a rat's nest on my head, am I?
No.
No. What does it usually mean when I say I see a rat's nest on my head, though?
It means you have a bad hair day.
Yep, my hair is looking pretty wacky. It's all tangled up. just like you'd see a rat's nest. Hey, Jackson, are you talking to somebody?
I was talking about Fortnite with my brother.
Oh. Okay, well, Jackson, I want you to tell me the difference between these two sentences. Your explanation is as clear as mud. Your explanation is mud.
One is using a metaphor, one's using a simile.
And how do we know if it's a simile?
They use the words like or as to compare two things.
Good, Jackson. And what two words are they comparing in these sentences?
Explanation and mud.
And what does it mean if you told me that my explanation was as clear as mud? Mud's not clear, is it? Nah, it's murky, vague, can't really see, opaque. It's kind of how my explanation would be to somebody who's confused, right? Your explanation is confusing. That's another way of saying it, right? So, number one, distinguish between simile and metaphor. Metaphor is saying A is B, and simile is saying A is like B, or is similar as B. So let's go back to our objective for today. What are we gonna do when we interpret figurative language?
Gabby, you look ready.
When we interpret figurative language, we're probably gonna be saying what it really means.
Good.
We're gonna use our own words to clarify the meaning of the sentence. After we go over some examples together as a class, I want you to choose between two activities. One, you're gonna research a song, find the figurative language in it, highlight them, and then you are going to rewrite those lines using your own words to give a more literal view of what the figurative language is saying. Number two assignment that you can do. You all have a reading book from the library, right? So I want you to use that reading book, read through it, and pick out 8 examples of figurative language from that book. And I'll adjust the instructions further after we do our examples, okay? So we're gonna be going in order. 1, 2, 3. Kathy, you're up first. So I want you all, like when we get to your number, start sharing your screen then. Or start sharing your screen now if you need to, because we need to get this moving forward and on a roll, okay? We need to have some time to do our work afterwards.
All right, so in the first example, it says wishes are thorns. Kathy, are you ready? Based on the comparison of wishes to thorns, what can you infer about the narrator's view on wishes?
Wishes are bad. Right, you got the connotations, the context right. How would someone normally feel when they come across a thorn?
It would hurt.
They would feel cautious, right?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
So, this, we would feel cautious. Kathy, this is just a random question. If you could wish for anything right now, what would you wish for?
I would wish for $1 million.
Me too. So, wishes to us can mean something good, something exciting. But when you're comparing wishes to thorns, then that means wishes are to make you cautious as well. So, based on this, what's another way of saying wishes are thorns?
Wishes, you should be careful what you wish for.
Right. Be careful. What you wish for. And why should you be careful what you wish for?
Because they can
have bad consequences if you ask it wrong. Right, so what your wish for before, you said you wanted $1 million, right? Yeah. Well, what if the person who was granting your wish thought you meant deer, and they just gave you a million deer? You don't want that. There'd be an overpopulation of deer, right? What would we call this type of figurative language? A metaphor. Correct. We would call that a metaphor.
Okay, Jackson, you're up. What does personification mean?
It's like when you make an animal talk like a human.
Jackson, that is a great example of personification. I want to clarify, though, that it doesn't have to necessarily be an animal. It can be an object, too. You're giving the characteristics of something living to something that is not living. On example number 2, Jackson, I want you to work that out for me.
The wind howled in the night. Why is the wind howling? It's probably very, windy.
But when it says the word howled, what is the implied metaphor? What typically howls? A wolf. So is it saying that the wind is a werewolf? No. So, what does it sound like when a wolf howls? Come on, Jackson, I know you can do it.
Oh!
If it's comparing it to that sound, maybe the wind sounds like this. Sounds very loud, right? It's very windy. Really windy. Personification really helps in descriptive writing when you are trying to use what we call imagery.
Now, I don't know what you think of when you think of the wind howling, but when I think of it howling, I think of the big bad wolf, huffing and puffing until he blows the house down. Whoo! This is a great example of imagery with personification. All right, number 3. Cameron, read this for me.
You are a cinema. I could watch you forever. Action thriller. I could watch you forever. You are a cinema, a Hollywood treasure. That's weird.
What does it mean when it says you're a cinema? What is a cinema?
A cinema is a movie.
Yeah, and what kind of language is this?
It's a metaphor.
But read on.
You are a cinema. I could watch you forever.
That. I want you to address that part. I could watch you forever. What kind of figurative language is that?
A metaphor?
Not necessarily. That's like very exaggerated, right? You can't really actually watch somebody forever. So this type of figurative language is called a hyperbole. And a hyperbole is an extreme exaggeration. Now, what do they mean when they say you are a cinema? Why do we watch movies?
Because they're interesting. They have a lot of, they have a great story to tell.
In other words, if we're comparing somebody to a cinema, we're basically saying, you are like a movie. You are interesting. You have a great story to tell. And when it says, I could watch you forever, it means you never get old. You're a movie that doesn't get old. Are there any movies that you like, Cameron, that don't ever get old?
Yeah.
And what would that be?
Shrek. I love Shrek.
That is definitely a movie that will never get old for me. Abby, read number 4.
Let the rain kiss you. Let the rain beat upon your head with silver liquid drops. Let the rain sing you a lullaby.
Have you ever been kissed, Abby?
Uh-huh.
And what does it feel like?
Wet and slobbery.
Yeah, we get those wet, slobbery kisses from our mom when we go to bed, huh? But they're warm and gentle, too. So what is the figurative language being used here?
Personification.
Yeah, we addressed personification earlier. And what did we say personification usually does? It creates an image in your head. Let the rain kiss you. We know that kisses are usually gentle. So, in this case, the rain is a gentle rain. When it says, let the rain beat upon your head with silver liquid drops, what kind of image does that give you, Abby?
It's raining really hard if it's beating on your head.
Yeah, right? Now, what does it mean when it says, let the rain sing you a lullaby?
The rain has a nice sound. I like hearing the rain. It always calms me down.
Yeah, just like a lullaby usually does. So we know from the context clues of the characteristics of a lullaby and how it is similar with the characteristics of the rain. Okay, Gabby, on number 5, it says, since you went away, the days grow long. Going in the order of how we're going to interpret sentences, we're going to first identify what type of figurative language this is. What is it?
That's kind of hard, actually.
How so?
Because I don't know if it's a metaphor or a hyperbole. Wait, is it a simile? No, it's a hyperbole, right?
You know what? You could be right both ways. It could be a metaphor or a hyperbole. But you're right, I am sorry. This is kind of unclear. And I don't want to confuse you guys. So what we're going to do here is, instead of saying the days grow long, we'll say, since you went away, the days last forever. That way it's more clear to you.
Oh, then it's a hyperbole.
And we're going to ask, now that we've identified what it is, we've addressed the what is it, we're going to ask why is it a hyperbole?
Because it's exaggerating.
It's an exaggeration of what?
The day.
We're exaggerating the time span. So we have addressed the what, the why, and now we have to restate this in our own words. Since you went away, what is happening, Gabby?
The days seem like they're lasting a longer time because that person's gone. They're probably a little bit lonely and sad.
Yes, perfect interpretation.
And Gabby, I liked how you used the context clues of the first part of the sentence. Since you went away, and you asked yourself in your head, what would you feel if somebody went away? And you knew that the person was probably feeling lonely. And that's why the days seemed longer.
I think that's enough examples for right now. So we went over the process. We identified the type of figurative language, and we were able to explain why it was that type of language. And we used the meaning behind the context clues, the words in the background, to give our interpretation of why what's being said is being said. Alexis, since you didn't do an example, tell me real quick the process of
analyzing and interpreting the figurative language.
You say what type of language it is, like simile or metaphor, and then you tell why it's that type, and then you look at information in the sentence or whatever, or in the book or what passage or whatever, and then you make your own interpretation based on what you yourself know about those context clues.
Good. Now let's get to the task. What you're gonna do is create a card. You can use index cards or construction paper, and I'm using construction paper. And cut them into the shape that you want. Let me try this. Cut it into a rectangle. And you're going to go to a song that you've researched, or you're going to use your class book. And this is my book that I'm going to use. It's called Laugh Your Way to Grace. And what you're going to do is go through it, the song or the book, and try to pick out figurative language. Now, for example, I'm going to find something on this page. There was never any laughter or loud voices. It was the kind of room that made you feel as if you should shower and put on a ball gown before you went in. This is a simile. I found a simile here. It was the kind of room that made you feel as if you should shower and put on a ball gown before you went in. Now, after I had found my simile from my book, I would take my card. I would write down what kind of figurative language it is. So this would be simile. And then I would write down the sentence. Using the context clues in this sentence, I would then interpret it. So usually the room that people enter when they're wearing a ball gown is a ballroom. And what do ballrooms usually look like? They look very classy. There's decorations, chandeliers, a dance floor. It's that kind of room. We're expected to have good hygiene. Now, that's not the actual room she's describing, because earlier in the passage, she's just talking about the living room from her family home. But based on the comparison, we could say that her living room was tidy. It was the place where nice stuff was kept. So what we'd write on the back of the card, the living room was kept clean and it was large enough to hold family gatherings, and you were expected to behave inside of it.
So I'm giving you guys 15 minutes to work on this activity. And when the 15 minutes are up, I'll be calling you guys to present. So you keep the Zoom on. We're staying in Zoom. If you have any questions while you're doing this, ask me, okay? Just raise your hand. Or you can put it in the chat box, all right?
Excuse me, I have a question. What all do you want on the construction card? And how many construction cards, how many sentences do you want us to do?
Thanks, Alexis. You're gonna do 8 examples. So you're gonna have 8 cards total. And I got a template over here. Among your 8 examples, you'll have 1 of each type: metaphor, simile, personification, and hyperbole. On the front of your card, I want you to identify the type of figurative language is being used, the example sentence, and on the back, you're gonna identify what is being compared.
And then answer the question, what are the context clues? And using those context clues, you will then write your interpretation.
In the example I used for my card, I used a context clue from the passage where it says they were describing the living room having to be kept neat with the ballroom simile. Or let's say the boy was as sly as a fox. We know that foxes from stories we read that they are sly and they are manipulative. They use tricks to get what they want. So the boy is as sly as a fox means that he is very clever or like a trickster.
So I don't want to waste any more of your time. You have 15 minutes and get started. And I'll be watching you guys, making sure you're doing what you're supposed to do.
15 minutes later.
Time's up, everybody. If y'all didn't finish, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Cameron, give us an example that you found.
One of my examples was personification. It says, "The sun is smiling on us today." And I wrote on the back that it's comparing the sun with a human. And in the context clues, usually a sun is bright and shiny and warm. And a smile is also warm. It feels warm. It makes the person feel good, just like a sun. So, my interpretation is the sun is up and making us warm today.
I like how you describe the similar qualities of a sun and the smile. Okay, Kathy?
Well, one of my examples, it was a hyperbole. It says, "I know everybody in my city." And I knew it was a hyperbole because you can't know everybody. And if you say you do, it probably means your city is really small. Or the person is very sociable. Like, I feel like I know everybody in my class, but I don't really know them all. I don't really know everything about them or anything like that. I just talk to them all, and we all get along.
I'm glad that you could use the text-to-self personal connection to explain your reasoning. Guys, if you look at your Google Classroom, there is a folder where you can submit your work, upload pictures of your cards into the folder so that I can grade them. And also you have a homework packet online to do. And I divided you into groups so that each group turns in only one packet. Y'all can work on it together, and while you're working on it, y'all can talk to each other and tell why you think it means the way it does. And although each group has only one packet, I still want each of you to individually answer the question. This lesson we learned today will tie into the next Zoom because next time we're going to be making our own poem using the figurative language. And then we're going to split into groups and interpret each other's poem. Alexis, how did we use context clues?
We used our own knowledge to make inferences based on definitions of words.
Good. Okay, guys, remember to do your assignments, and time is up. So if you have any questions, stay on the Zoom with me, and I can answer them. But if you want to leave, go ahead.